Welcome, everyone. This is All the Way Down, episode 27. I got to update this little graphic up here. 27. I'm Invictus Knox with your host here, Dash Retro.
That's me. I'm happy to be back.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, we didn't have it. It feels like it's been a while since our last episode, but I think we're actually still on schedule.
Yeah. Still on the every other Wednesday, but yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff stacks up. Like I've got a lot of potential stuff to talk about,
Man,
including
I
something that
see.
happened to me yesterday.
I see the stuff that you stream, and I go, God damn it, I can't watch because spoilers. And then I go, oh, God damn it, I got a podcast with this guy. I can't talk to him now because spoilers.
Yeah.
So,
I know it's funny because so much. Like I want to talk about Castlevania so much. That's always the big thing. But we're waiting on you.
I think once I'm done with Tomb Raider, and boy, is that a fun pin to define where I'm putting it in, is I think I'm going to go back to Castlevania after that. I think I've settled into a groove of first stream night of the week just be a random retro game or whatever I'm doing as a series. Wednesday being our podcast night. Maybe I'll have a pre-stream workbench thing, and then Friday just being fighting games with the friends,
Excellent.
Seems like a pretty solid thing to get into.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of Final Fantasy VII speedrunning still, but then last week I went pretty hard on it, but then I started to get some wrist pain, probably from too much mashing circle through cutscenes. So I had to kind of cool it on Friday.
Well, are there controller restrictions to your speedrun?
Yeah, you can't use a turbo controller.
Damn it, I was going to say just use a turbo.
Right. Even if you could, it would be kind of annoying to then have to use a third-party controller, because I like the Sony controller, But yeah, no turbo controller is allowed in it, which, is a rule that I'm not super stoked about, right? Like I can see it either way, right? Yeah, it's very pure to not use a turbo controller. It also means that it takes less hardware for someone to get into speedrunning. Since they don't have to get a special controller and that kind of thing. Yeah. I get all that, but at the same time, it's like, man, it's so like when I'm practicing, I use an emulator for practice often, and I use autofire for that, right? And it's so nice to be able to relax on on the mashing parts. But anyway,
saves you time in practicing.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of that, but also there has been a big update to Calm Skip, but I won't bore everybody with that talk again. Yeah, I've also been playing Castlevania Legacy of Darkness for N64, like we mentioned, and then oh man, there's other stuff that I'd like to talk about too, though. I've got a lot. I've got a lot on the plate.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff I know you can talk about. I've been working overtime like friggin' crazy. Like seriously, like I worked 12 hours today, and I can't believe I had time to still do this. But either way, I played one game, and I played a demo of another game that I would love to talk about this other game, but it was a demo, and I'm pretty sure the full game has been patched all to, heck, to where it's like, why update the fucking demo? So I broke the demo by doing just a simple QA accidental mistake, and it made the demo broken, and I couldn't play the game. It's a game called Kaiju Fishing. It's a fishing game, obviously, but like you're fishing for, little fish to get bigger fish, to get bigger fish, to get gigantic sea monsters, and it's fucking terrifying. But it's a cute little fishing game, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try it. All I want to say about this game, real quick, is you start off in this little pool area where you start fishing for small things, and it tells you to go on a quest to go out in the big water, right? And it goes, all right, catch one of every of these fish. And me just enjoying the game caught one of every fish, but two of another fish. And as soon as I went to the quest giver, I go, all right, here's all my fish. They go, whoa. You need this? You need one of these? And I was like, yeah, I got two. And they're like, whoa. You need one. One, and then you're good. It seems like you don't have any right now. So the simple fucking logic of if it's not, one, it has to be zero. I don't know if that translates into the full game, so I can't judge it accurately. But I think
Right.
I don't want to buy that game now because of that broken demo. And
Gotcha.
I think that's a
That's
fair
why we
thing.
don't get demos anymore. Is
Yeah.
because of you.
Yeah, well, it's because of me. No, it's not because no one QAs their game anymore.
So when I hear kaiju, I think Godzilla.
Yeah.
What kind of monster are we talking about at the end?
Well, so I think there's a bunch of different monsters. I think I played this demo for all of 20 minutes. You start off in this there's not a lot of wakes, it's a very low wave area. It's not scary water. It's got fish in it. And then you're in kind of like a big open area of water, but surrounded by islands, and the islands get so thick in some areas it's a natural barrier and you can't cross them, but you can see these gigantic fins swimming in a certain pattern out at sea, and you're like, oh, that's creepy, I can't wait to get out there. And then you never do, because you catch two fish.
And is this on Steam?
It's on Steam.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Is it 3D or 2D?
It's 3D. So graphics wise, imagine Wind Waker. It honestly looks like an adult Wind Waker.
Oh, neat.
It's got that cell shading to it, but it's not so cell shaded that it's like Wind Waker exactly. It's about halfway there. Imagine if Wind Waker were cranked down to 0.5 and made in what feels like the Unreal Engine. I don't think it is it's not the Unreal Engine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So can I briefly tell you a story of something that happened to me last night?
Please do.
I'm watching my brother on Twitch. He's playing Legend of Mana. Remember Legend of Mana for PlayStation 1?
I never got to play it.
It is a Squaresoft game for PS1, action RPG.
It's action.
Well, action as in you don't bring up a menu in combat, It's like a battle starts and it kind of you're running around on the field, right? And when there's a battle, it's just that enemies appear and then it locks the camera into position and then you walk around in that area and you fight the enemies, action style, right? Cool game, really, really whimsical art style. I think the thing about the game that really stands out and makes it super instantly recognizable is the art style of the game and how whimsical everything is. Also, the soundtrack was done by the same composer that did Mario RPG and Kingdom Hearts, as well as some other really well-known stuff. As much as I shit on Kingdom Hearts, the soundtrack is fantastic, and so yeah, soundtrack by that same person. For this game, so that's really recognizable. So it's a great game, and I'm watching my brother. And it was here's the deal: it was a childhood favorite of mine, but I haven't really played it in a long time. So I'm watching him play it, and I'm like, I would like to play this game, and I think I remember playing it on Vita. So I decided to go get because the Vita can play PS1 games. So I decided to go get my Vita out of storage. I go find it, I dust it off,
Ugh.
and I plug it in because it's out of batteries, of course. Now, first of all, the Vita is one of those devices where if it's totally dead, it won't start up right away when you plug it in. You got to plug it in and you got to wait for a while for it to get to a certain battery percentage before it'll actually power up. So that takes about 20 minutes, right? I'm still, I go back to watching, I go back to doing whatever, and I'm glancing over at the Vita every once in a while, looking at the charge light indicator to see if it's telling me that it'll turn on now. And after about 20 minutes, I turn it on. Cool. All right. It needs to update. Okay. Reasonable. Fine. It updates. And then I go to PlayStation Store. PlayStation Store needs to update. Oh, well, first of all, I looked through the Vita and I'm like, wait a second, I don't have Legend of Mana on this thing? That's weird. I could have sworn I did. Guess not. Apparently I fabricated that. I guess I didn't have it on Vita, so I need to go get it. So go to PlayStation Store. That needs to update. Okay, fine, reasonable. Wait for that to update. Then, though, when we're finally into the point of me booting up PlayStation Store to go find it, it starts erroring out whenever it tries to log into PlayStation Network, log into my account.
You're trying to get Legend of Mana on PS Vita.
Vita, yeah.
Nowadays.
It's a PS1 game.
Nowadays. You're trying to do this like from last night.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So I go so on the so I try to log into my PlayStation Network account, errors out, gives me some kind of error code. It just says that it failed. It doesn't give me any details, and I get an error code. So then begins the nightmare that everyone can relate to. I'm sure everyone has had this. You go to the internet to say, "What the hell is this error code?" And all you can't find a PlayStation.com error code search thing that tells you what happened and how to fix it. All you have to find looking up this error code are forum post after forum post from 10 fucking years ago of other people who had this issue and no solutions. All of
God.
the solutions are ridiculous shit like make sure UPnP is on your router. It is, right? Yeah, restart your router and turn it back on. Let me tell you, as a network engineer right now, you never have to do that.
Yeah.
It's always something else. Um, that
Yeah.
might fix your issue, but it fixed it in a way that you could have fixed it more easily, right? So I hear that and I go, oh, it's the MAC entry, right? So I go into the router's MAC table and I find the Vita and erase it out of there, and that doesn't help, right? Nothing's helping. I'm looking through all these different forum posts, all from 10 years ago from different people. Oh, this person says to tether your thing to your mobile hotspot on your phone and then that'll work. Use your neighbor's Wi-Fi, all this bullshit.
Use your neighbor's Wi-Fi. What the fuck?
Then after like 20 minutes of troubleshooting it and just trying it every few seconds, it just works. At some point, it just stops airing out and it works, and then it lets me in, and I'm like, okay.
You think they
Okay.
got that troubleshooting tips direct from the PlayStation Vita manual? Go to your neighbor's house. Ask them for their Wi-Fi password.
Yeah, there's those little what's that? Oh my god, there's those like IKEA drawings, of like you knocking on their door. Anyway, so it just works after 20 minutes for some reason. Fine. So now I'm in the PlayStation store and the organization on there is a little confusing, but the PS1 games are under a section called Classics. That is it's got minis on it for some reason. It's got PS1 games on it. It's got something else in it. You go to Classics, and that's where these three different types of games are on the Vita store. Some of them are PS1 games. That's where those are. So I go to Classics, scroll down to L, right, for Legend of Mana. I press L, scroll down. There's Legend of Dragoon. There's Legend of something else. There's no Legend of Mana. And I'm like, hang on. I know that this game was available at some point on Vita. Why isn't it here? So just to check, I go to the search option on the Vita, right? Just like to type something in search. I type in Legend of Mana, search for it. It's there. It pops right up. So it like apparently you can't browse for it. It's not in the listing, but if you search for it, it's there.
Weird.
Wait, actually, okay, sorry. Let me rewind real quick. Before I searched for it on the Vita, I don't know. The ordering doesn't actually matter. I also searched for it on store.playstation.com on a browser and found out that you can't find PS1 classics on the browser for some reason. Like if
Boo.
you just go to store.playstation.com and you search for PS1 games, they don't show up. So that was weird. But okay, so I search for Legend of Mana. Hey, it's there. Okay, fine. Really weird that it's not where everything else is, but I searched for it and it's there. So $6.44 US including tax, right? I press buy now, but when I go to buy it, it comes up with my old credit card info, right? Oh, that's understandable. I haven't used the Vita in a while, but there's nowhere to add new info. There's nowhere to change it on the Vita. All I can do is try to use what's already stored on my account. So,
Ah. God, that's right. They said your credits would remain, but what the fuck do you do? Man, it's like going to your bank to visit your $5 in your account, you know?
So you might have some information I didn't have last night, but I got there eventually. So let's keep going. So so all it's showing is it's telling me it's going to use my old credit card info that's not going to work, and there's no way that I can change it from the Vita, right? Frustrating.
Oh, you
Okay.
can't change it from the Vita?
No. No, I not even in the PlayStation Store. I backed out to the regular Vita system settings to try to see if there was billing info in there, like system settings, PlayStation Network account, right? Look at my account info, all that kind of stuff. Nowhere is there a billing option, right? Which makes sense when we get there, but we're not there yet. This is the current part of annoyance.
All right.
So I go to store.playstation.com again on my PC browser, and I log into my account, go to my account settings, and there I can change my billing info, right? Let's ignore the part where the website errored out like 5 times while I was trying to change things. We'll just give them the benefit of the doubt there. And I got my new billing info on my account. So then I go back to my Vita, I go back to the cart, right, and go back to checkout on the Vita store, and hey, it updated the billing info. It pulled it from the site that I just updated on the PC, and it has it now. Awesome. I hit purchase, and it gives me an error. It just says it lost connection with the server.
Jesus.
Now I know it's connected to the server because it just pulled my new billing info, right? So I try it a few times. It's not working. Every time it gives me this other error code. So I start looking up this other error code. And again, 10-year-old forum posts that all point back to this article from Destructoid that says, yeah, this brand new Vita that we have, it keeps getting this error, and it's because we're downloading too much stuff. Just download less things at once and it'll work.
So
Super.
they literally said, "I'm your computer. Stop all the downloading."
No, on your Vita. Like you're downloading too many Vita games at once, and it's not going to let you.
GI Joe reference. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. So I'm like, dude, this is a 10-year-old Destructoid article, and every single forum post points to it.
I forgot Destructoid existed. Wow.
And again, I can't go to PlayStation's website for any information about this because they have nowhere to like put in an error code and get a result for anything.
That is troubling.
So the only other thing that I found is, okay, so now I'm Googling shit like, I can't buy a PS1 game on Vita, right? Problem with that is that in March of last year, Sony announced that they were shutting down the Vita, PS3, and PSP stores, right? And then
The
a month.
backlash.
Yeah, and then a month later, they reversed the decision for Vita and PS3, and they're still shutting down the PSP store. But that means if you try to search anything about having any trouble downloading a PS1 game on your Vita, or anything on your Vita, all you get are the millions of articles that were written in that 1 month period of, they're shutting down the Vita store, guys. You're not going to be able to buy your Vita games anymore. And that's all you get. So I had no help. So eventually I'm just like, okay, am I going to have to buy this thing on the PS3
or the PS1?
Well, that what I wanted to do was sit at my computer, watch a Legend of Mana stream while I played it on my Vita, right? That was the digital future that I was trying to embrace for once, right?
Wait a minute. Wait. All this to say, what about that Mana collection they just released on Switch? Is this not one of those games?
It looks like shit.
Oh.
All right, so let's okay.
Right.
They did just remaster Legend of Mana for the new systems, but it's like $30. And what they did was they remastered and smoothed out all the backgrounds, right? So all the backgrounds look all like cool and hand painted, but then they still have these like sharp pixel sprites on top of it, and it looks like absolute garbage. I want to play the PS1 game. Okay, so
Me too.
anyway, so I'm thinking, okay, I think I have to buy this fucking thing on my PS3 so that I can then transfer it to the Vita, right?
Uh,
So
Sorry,
I
I was just looking up what you said. I just saw a picture of it, and it kind of, from what you were saying, it kind of looks like someone had just taken children's book art and then put pixel art sprites on it.
Yeah, the game has a very whimsical art style
Yeah.
that does look kind of like a kid's book illustration,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, but they're really good illustrations. Like,
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't
for
look like a
sure.
child's drawing. It looks like a really good drawing that's maybe for children,
But you're
right?
saying this looks like shit.
Um,
I'm looking at an image. I'm not looking at gameplay. So
right. Well, I just don't like the look of pixely sprites on top of a
sharp
smoothed out
image. Yeah,
background.
I could see that.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Uh, so I get my PS3 off the shelf, right? Hook it up to everything, to the internet. That thing's got to update now. Okay, reasonable, fine. Then I try to go to PlayStation Store. Oh, I got to download it because I've never accessed it on this PS3 before. Okay, fine. Then the PS Store has to update though, because even though I just downloaded it, it doesn't download the version. I guess it's got to update it too. Okay, fine. PS Store updates. So then PlayStation Store on PS3 comes up, and PlayStation Store has a notice on the front page. Why didn't Vita have this? I don't know. It's very frustrating that the Vita didn't tell me this, but the PS3 has a store or has a notice on the front page that says you can no longer add funds to your PlayStation wallet on a PS3 or a Vita. You have to add the funds to your account using a PS4, 5, or the web browser,
What? Weird.
and then you can use those wallet funds on your Vita or
Uh,
PS3 to buy something.
they probably just shut down the gateways for those consoles because no one's using them. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, like they probably don't want to keep like security features up to date, and so they don't want to do
Yeah,
billing on them.
that's
And so
true.
instead you got to do your funds on your other systems that are updated and secure, and then you can use that now you can use your PlayStation Fun Bucks that you just bought on your Vita or your PS3. PS3 has a notice on the front store that tells me this. Wow, okay. It was still very frustrating to get up to the point of the cart, and then and all of the errors and hurdles I had to jump over to get there, but this at least solves the problem of now I can add funds to my wallet and purchase Legend of Mana on the Vita. Right? Fucking nah. All right. So, then I'm like, okay, here's the answer. I will go on the browser once again to the store, and I will add funds to my wallet. Now, here's the first little thing. You can't add $6.44 US to your wallet. You can only add increments of $5 to your wallet. So now I got to pay $10 for the game essentially,
God damn it.
because now they need $10. And you know what? Fine. Fine. It's worth $10. So I go to add $10 to my wallet, and the PlayStation Store on web browser errors out. It won't take my money. I don't know how to fix it. There's no error code. I go to add $10 and
What
it
you
just
do?
says
What you do is you take
error.
your $10, you get it converted to nickels and pennies.
Mhm.
You get a really big envelope.
Mhm.
You write Sony on it and put a stamp on it and stick
We
it in the mail.
mail it straight to Jack Trenton.
I guess
So
that's the CEO.
I think maybe he used to be. I don't know. That
Oh.
might be out of date. But yeah, so we're at the final step now where, okay, now I'm past all the hurdles. I now understand the intended process of how to purchase a Vita game in 2021, which is to add funds to your wallet somewhere else and then use them on Vita. But that is erroring out now. I double checked my card information. It's good. And yeah, it errors out. It won't let me. And at this point, fuck it. Fuck it. I gave up. I attempted to give Sony my money. I attempted to embrace the digital future and play a digital copy of Legend of Mana in 2021, and after 2 hours, I failed. And the whole time, what I couldn't quit thinking about the whole time is people love to make fun of Nintendo's online service and how shitty Nintendo's online is and how poorly it all works. But you know what Nintendo is really good at? Taking your money. It works. They'll take it. They will take your money when you ask for it. Also, okay, that's it. That's my experience last night. I had to get that off my chest.
God damn, dude. All that over just not wanting smooth pixels.
Well, I think the remake is also like $30, and at that price, I might as well just buy the PS. At that point, I might as well just buy the PS1 game and wait for it to ship to me, and then play it on PS1.
Wait for it to ship. I don't know how much it is on PS1. Is Legend of Mana, right?
Yeah, it's probably a bit more now since it's a Squaresoft game.
Complete in box, you're looking at $64.
Okay. That's a great game.
That's good.
So, that's my story. I'm pissed. So I'm over here pissed. Tell me something.
Well, I've got
something soothing.
Have you played Indigo Prophecy before?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so you've beaten it. Have you beaten it?
I didn't beat it myself, but I have seen someone else beat it in the following years.
All right, I'm happy that you have at least some experience in this then. I would say this was one of my all-time favorite games. And I say this with the preface of I rented this from Blockbuster to give you an idea of how long it's been since I've played it. I had a PS2 when it was new, I guess, quote unquote. So I rented this game one time because it looked interesting. This was in a phase where Blockbuster video game rental and my mom's budget coincided perfectly with a situation to where we could be there almost every Friday and just rent something new. So I'd get a new video game every week that I only ever got to play for a week because that was the upgrade from the demo discs only model. And then I found Indigo Prophecy. I played it, and I think I don't even remember what drew me to it, man. I think I looked at the back of it, and to be completely honest with you, there's a great chance that it was my third or fourth choice when every other video game I wanted to play was already rented out and out of stock.
Sure.
But I saw this gritty-looking thing, and I was curious about it because it said something about from the famous movie director or something like that. Or I don't even remember what the fuck it said on the back. Essentially, it says, there's a movie director making a video game. Enjoy. That's what I gathered from it anyway.
Sure. And one thing to throw out real quick,
Yeah.
if anyone's listening who's not from the US, this game might be called Fahrenheit in your
Fahrenheit.
region.
And that's what I was going to get to that because actually what I played was not Indigo Prophecy. I played Fahrenheit, which is the Steam it was a 2015 HD remaster of Fahrenheit, the international uncensored version. So I didn't think about that at all through my playthrough because I was just like, what? There's going to be more blood? Cool. And then come to find out, I guess I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say if you know anything about the San Andreas Grand Theft Auto game, hot coffee might mean something to you. And that is about as best as I could describe this because, well, first of all, it's a PS2 game. San Andreas was a PS2 game. It was also an Xbox. But anyway, there is animated sex in the game. And I want to say it happened on more than one occasion, but my memory might just be failing me because I was drinking a little bit in my second playthrough because I had to get through it. And honestly, it was mostly because I wanted to play it as a relaxation game because I've already beaten it as a kid. But I beat it as an adult. And woo boy, is there a huge difference in what a teenager considers a good game and what a fucking adult considers a good game with context of how the real world works. Holy
Yeah.
crap, dude. Okay,
I
how long
I
has it
want
been
to
since you
ask
played?
you I want to ask you right away. Is this how much David Cage games have you played?
Oh, so this is the only one, but because I love this game so much, and I'm a
Okay.
huge sci-fi nerd. I kind of hugely want to play Detroit Become Human.
Right. Okay. So so you haven't played Heavy Rain, haven't
Nope.
played Beyond Two
But my
Souls.
friends in my chat have recommended that I play Heavy Rain next, and
Sure.
I probably do it because I want to give this guy another shot for sure.
Yeah, that's just fine. I'm just curious if you were like someone who played the more recent ones and then you're going back,
Yeah,
But
no.
no. So
This
okay,
is
you
I played it when it
this
was
is
new.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I played this game when it was new and loved it.
I also played Indigo Prophecy before Heavy Rain came out. I
Okay.
know he did have another game. I can never remember the name of it. That was like for PC a long time ago or whatever. But yeah, also I played Indigo Prophecy before Heavy Rain came out. So
Well, I
go
guess it's
on.
also worth noting that when I played this as a kid, I guess I'm going to kind of allude back and forth between when I was a kid and when I played this recently. But when I was a kid, I had never played a video game anything like what this game is, which is, and this is actually the first video game I believe I ever played that had QTEs. And that's another subject I want to get into, which is, anyway, QTEs, another subject. But first game I ever played that would be described as a walking simulator, or what people would call it at that time. Whereas this is really just what I would call a playable movie. And it's 1,000% what it is. You move and control a character for a good portion of it, so you really can't call it a walking sim because there is puzzles, there is interaction, there is dialogue options, there's choices of things to do in what order, and that's kind of the whole appeal of the game. I guess I should have said this right off the bat. It's a playable movie, but the idea is you have choices, and those choices have consequences, and those consequences change the story and the outcome, which at the time in this PS2 era was revolutionary.
Totally. I would be extremely I would not call the game a walking sim whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because I feel like part of that kind of game is that you can't lose. You just kind of walk through and watch a story happening. Indigo Prophecy is a game where you can lose.
Yep.
You can get a game over and have to try shit again.
True.
I think if anyone hasn't played the game before, I think maybe we can describe the opening act.
So let me do, because this is the hook, man. This is what gets you into this motherfucking game, and it is a murder mystery of almost like, I feel like I could pick up a novel in a grocery store and get the same kind of riveting story from this, but because it's also a playable movie, it's just so much more in the moment, and it puts you in a situation you'd never ever be in, and all of a sudden you got to make some fucking decisions quick. So let's go. Here's the story. I'm just gonna give you the hook, the opening, so we don't spoil anything. You are in a diner in New York City. I would say the timeline is about late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, about that time, I would say. You definitely have a cell phone, I want to say, at some point. But either way.
I might be getting the game mixed up with other stuff, but doesn't it take place in the future, though? I feel like there's some gadgets in it.
No, yeah, this is in the past.
Okay. I'm probably misremembering then.
It's cool. I do it all the time. You're in a diner in New York City. It's like, imagine New York City. You're in an old like 50s style street diner. You know, one of those old restaurants that architecturally haven't been updated because since they were started. It's a diner, little like a silver diner, kind of 50s interior decor, etc. You're at your table. You're just reading a book. Doesn't matter what the book is. That'll come in later. Don't want to spoil it. Enjoying your coffee and your meal. You go to the bathroom. You gotta drop a deuce. You go into the stall. I'm just realizing the entire.
Knox, get to the part where you stab a man to death.
I don't want to get to that part because I just realized there was never any important resolution on whether or not you actually took a shit in the beginning or whether or not you had to shit the entire time.
I don't even think that it starts out with you reading a book or anything. Does that happen? I just remember that what I remember, the opening seconds are you stabbing a man to death repeatedly in the chest in the bathroom of a diner. And then you break out and you're like, "Oh my God, I was possessed, I think, and I just stabbed a man to death." Right? And so you're like, "Holy shit, I just stabbed a man to death. That really just happened." And then the game is like, "What are you going to do about it? You're in public and you're in the diner." And then as you're thinking about what you're going to do about it, the game goes into split screen and you start seeing that there is a cop in the diner and he's talking to the clerk, and he's gonna come to the bathroom. So you're like, fuck, do I just like
Start
walk
slowly
out
walking.
right now? And just casually walk by him and leave? And do I gotta clean this shit up real quick and hide the body? Right? You gotta.
And there's multiple mechanics of what you can do in the bathroom. There's like you have to understand you just killed a person, and you have to weigh your sanity of I gotta get the fuck out, panic, versus what can I do to make myself look as innocent as possible as I'm about to be walking past people who will probably know me and look at me. And then you have to deal with the fact that don't make a scene, get the hell out. How can I get out? There's just so many questions that happen all at once that just make it such a cool scene to just like have to think about for like 30 minutes, whereas in the game you get 1 minute to execute. So that's why it's so fun, because you have to kind of understand where you're gonna come at it from, story wise, narrative wise, how you're gonna spin it. It's there's lots of decisions you make, and they all affect the future, some of which can fuck you up right in the moment, and then you have to game over and redo it. It's very frustrating. And I will say in particular, this Steam version of the game, I played this with a PS4 controller, just thinking, well, I played it with a PS2 controller back in the day. That's how I should play it now. The QTE, oh, damn, I guess I should specify. For those who don't know what a QTE is, it's a QuickTime event. A thing comes up on the screen. It tells you to push a button. You push it. If you push it in time, you congratulations, you go on to the next thing. They happen real fast. You got to memorize in certain portions. I would say when I first played this game, the first thing I thought about was Simon Says. Because the colors of the QTE that you actually, like when you do an action, it's a certain color in a certain direction. So I was like, oh, wow, it's Simon Says mechanics with a movie. This is interesting. And also I'm playing it. I loved the game at the time. But let me...
Now, this is an issue we get into this podcast in sometimes, where now I want to say, hey, if you guys don't know what Simon is, it's this game every single kid had in the 90s, where it was like a disc circular, what would you call it? It's like a UFO shape, right? Of plastic. Yeah.
It's like a saucer.
With 4 colored buttons going around, and they would light up and make each one had a different sound, and a different tone, and they would light up, and then you had to press it in order, and each time it would get longer. So it would go like red, blue, blue, green, right? And then you'd have to hit red, blue, blue, green, and then it would red, red, blue, green, yellow, and then you'd have to do those, right? Over and over. And yeah, in Indigo Prophecy, sometimes it'll bring up something that is just like that. And that and then you have to repeat it, and then something happens. And that brings me to a big issue that I have with the QTEs in this game, which is that when that kind of QTE comes up, you don't know what the fuck it's gonna do. And that's something that drives me nuts in QTEs. No, a lot of the time, let's say you're playing God of War, what happens is like they're fighting, and then Kratos is like coming, and he's like swinging at the guy's head, right? And then a QTE pops up. You know what that QTE is gonna do. It is going to chop that man in the face, right? But in Indigo Prophecy, it's like the character looks at the camera and is like, huh? And then a QTE comes up that you're supposed to do. And you have no clue what the consequences are at the time that you're putting it in. And
that was a huge problem for me when I was specifically at a boss fight near the end, because there is with a QTE, like you said, you're going to think one move is going to be a punch. Predictable. Okay, cool. That's what you want in a QTE. With this, it was like I had to do just memorize like as my inputs. And as this is happening, nothing's actually happening on the screen. It's just like Lucas will walk up to the boss, do a couple slippy slappies in the face, and then get knocked into like a wall or something. But it's like, did I just pass the QTE? Like, what's happening? Because like, there's not a lot of good corresponding into pass-fail action and what's going on versus how well you're actually doing things. And with, God damn it, dude, I wish the QTEs had the level of accuracy that a game like DDR had, where it would tell you, great, good, perfect, amazing, like, and it shows all those. This in this game, you get it, and you could fuck up real bad, dude. You could fuck up real bad, and it would just go great at the end of the sequence, like, okay, and then you could do perfectly, and at the end of it, it'd be like great, or you could do really badly, or do really great, and it won't say anything. So they didn't really figure out the mechanic to reward yourself. They didn't figure out the cheese for the rat in this little labyrinth maze here, fully.
Yeah. I also vote that we don't care too much about spoilers for this game because it's old.
Okay.
And
hang on. It's
mechanical.
Hang on. Well, mechanical, yes, because story is all this game is, if you really think about it.
Sure. Because did you like the part where you have to intentionally fail the QTEs in order to get through the scene?
No, they were very frustrating, but I think the worst part for me was how the story changed suddenly and abruptly for no reason. Because the whole part of why this game is good is the beginning, the opening hook. You just killed a guy from going into a trance in the bathroom stall. He was washing his hands after he was at the urinal. You just walked up to him, stabbed him with I think you had a scalpel, like a medical scalpel, because right before you stabbed him, you carved all these symbols into your wrist, and you were bleeding out through your wrist while you killed him.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that part.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to build to that illusion there in the opening scene. Because, you don't start off eating at your table, but you find out later on as you have to escape that you were a customer. You were just at the table. And you have no recollection of going to the bathroom because the game starts in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. So you have innately learned from the game without it telling you at all that you have no recollection of what happened, just simply from where it starts you off. And the fact that it's a hook because it's right in the beginning also helps a lot too, because you just stabbed a guy, he's bleeding out to death, he dies pretty quickly, and it turns out I'm not gonna avoid too many spoilers here, but it turns out that you killed this guy by stabbing him in 4 different places with surgical precision such that you would have had to have a patient open on the table for you to have gone in with a knife and cut those arteries. And he bled out very quickly because of that in the bathroom. And so you have to find out how the hell you went into a trance, did this for no reason. There's no motive. You were just some dickhead at a diner one day. And you kind of just, go through the story, figuring out key characters here and there, what caused what and what happened where. And meanwhile, the reason why the game, traps you in it for so long is because you also play other characters in it. You play the cops, essentially, who are after you. There was the cop in the diner with you, but he's just a street cop. He's just he's not like an investigator, which you then play. You play 2 investigators on the police force in NYPD. You play Carla Valenti, and you play Tyler. I can't remember his last name. His name's Tyler. All I know is I love him because he has the best taste of music. And he has the dopest apartment. Anyway. You kind of go through their life. You get a little slice of what it's like to be Tyler. He's got some relationship problems. You got Carla. She's single, and then you figure out what's going on with her. But God damn it, man. This is what pisses me off. You get some way through the game, And like you kind of get to the point where Carla figures out that you were the person who killed that innocent guy in a bathroom. And just, you don't even have to have watched too many cop dramas or even like Breaking Bad to know that like once you find the target that you've been after, the guy that just killed someone and you got him in your sight, you don't believe his delusions and fall in love with him. Carla goes from NYPD cop to, hey, I killed a guy and cut my wrists, but believe me, I don't know what I was doing, and you should trust me. And she's just like, okay.
Yeah,
like what? There's so much shit that like has to happen in a story for those two characters that are diametrically opposed to come right together and just fuck in an awful 3D, awful CGI animated. God, there was titty on there, man, and I was streaming this game and I was like, oh fuck, that's what it meant by international unrated. And then I had to close off the video feed real quick, and then I was like, hey, so super awkward too, really awkward, totally unnecessary sex scene. Don't remember it all as a kid, didn't think it needed to be there as a kid either.
So on that topic, yeah, one thing is like we might be talking about this story as if it's like super compelling and amazing and awesome.
Was.
But well, you gotta reel in expectations a little bit, where it's like the hook is really cool. The idea is really cool, but as it's being played out, the dialogue is really bad. And a lot of it, and like tons of scenes are just super awkward and embarrassing.
Yeah.
And like it's like something's off, like it's super campy,
My God, there's a character in there that I was surprised I didn't remember as a kid, because this character is like so outwardly like a racist, like what's the like a caricature. Like, how did this get passed? And then later on you realize, okay, it's not a big deal because spoilers. Do you want to spoil that? Okay.
We can talk.
Yeah. It's an old game. Yeah. So some, like, you go to the you're in the police station. And you got to figure out you got to find a book that has some information on, God damn it, some like symbols and like cult shit, yada yada. So you got to go to the library of the police station. There's a library downstairs, like, and off to the right or something. I honestly don't think it was a separate scene you traveled to. I think it was part of the police station. You're downstairs,
sure.
and
it's
you
like
go down
the Resident Evil 2 police station.
Mm-hmm, yeah, just with a whole ass multi-story, like 4-story library downstairs, with the lowest level being where the library is, and you just climb up the stairs to go up to the different floors of books. You got to find a book, Neil in a haystack quest, essentially. But the guy you talk to down there is straight up Fu Manchu, fucking like, old like Chinese kung fu movie outfit, hat and everything, or hood or something he's got on, and talking like the most like stereotypical Chinese accent you could from the kung fu days. And it's like you actually have to interact with this guy for like a good solid hour or however long it takes for you to solve this puzzle. And then you realize later on, he goes, I just had to see you weren't like some suspicious dickhead. I don't actually talk like this. And it makes sense because he's a guy in fucking New York City. He's just some... There's no like kung fu villain that just works for the NYPD. In the library division.
And then like a lot of the stuff early on is just really cringy and dumb, like
campy.
When they're introducing the cops to each other, Carla and Tyler, like you were saying. There's just scenes where they're like, hey, you want to play some b-ball, and then there's like, and it's like, when I say it's campy, that's not really the right word, because campy is usually pretty self-aware, but this is like straight up played 100% straight, a scene that's like supposed to be cool of them like playing basketball one-on-one.
It's not
while
Carla,
they
it's
talk to each other.
It's Tyler and Tyler's co-worker, who is not at all even a minor character in the series, but you're forced to play a fucking basketball game with him through QTEs, and there's like this, you owe him money. There's like this developing storyline that never mattered and never will again in the game.
Yeah, and it's taken so seriously, and like, oh my god, it's so bad. But and then though the latter half of the game though devolves into like complete schlock. You mentioned the occult stuff a little bit, but it goes like full force ridiculous later.
They lose the plot.
Do you like it gets to the point where there's a scene it's like a dark room with a bunch of shadowed figures sitting in a circle going, "Well, gentlemen,
that's the council, dude, and they have the most.
We need to do something about the recent developments."
Harvey Birdman villain voices. Like I swear one of them would have sounded better if he was just straight up god damn it, Zoltar. Would have been so much better.
It gets so stupid. Do you remember the part where you're in a mental asylum and the power goes out?
Yeah.
And for some reason, when the power goes out, all of the locks on the cells emergency open. And then it becomes like a first-person horror game where you're walking around a dark asylum where the quote-unquote zombies are just mentally ill people walking around like fucking zombies
making noises and screaming.
It's so fucking stupid.
Like, why did that need to be? I don't even remember why we went to the mental hospital. I think one of the people might have known. Like one of the chief antagonists that you know, or some shit like that. Like of course he's some crazy guy in an asylum. That's exactly how they have been billing like supporting villain characters literally since Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's always an insane guy in a fucking asylum who actually knows what's going on, but because he's in an asylum, you don't trust him. Why would you trust him? He's just only in the movie.
Right. Well, no one trusts him. It's just your character with your detective's intuition that's like, actually, I think this crazy guy is right.
God damn it. I don't even remember why that guy was relevant. I don't even remember why we were there, dude. And I beat this game like last week. There's so much I don't fucking get about what happened about this. I have a terrible memory, man. And some of the games I talk about on this podcast, I played them like months before we talk about them on this podcast, but this wound is fresh. And I loved this game as a childhood. From my childhood, I loved this game as a kid. And like, I remember beating it as a kid, but I remember also as a kid not enjoying the game anywhere near as much as the first couple hours of it because of the mystery. And the crazy shit that happens is like, you got to figure out why you were even, your character even killed that guy. So you got to figure out why you just have like this. Oh my God, man. All right, we're going to go into more spoilers here. You all of a sudden figure out that you are also Neo. So there's this cult horror figure, like horror movie shit going on, but you also figure out that the spoons aren't real. You figure out that if you just really believe in yourself, you can, and also do a whole bunch of QTEs at once, you can Hulk smash your way away from 30 NYPD cops, run across the top of a bus, jump on a bridge, and hitch on another bus, and escape New York City downtown near the crime scene of where they go.
Yeah, I totally forgot that you have superpowers for no reason.
You also have psychic, telepathic, or telekinetic powers that you use against the protagonist in the final boss fight, or antagonist, and it's just... Dude, there's so much that just like, I would have killed for this game to just be like, I killed this guy. Now I have to figure out why it happened, and I have to atone. I have to figure out who possessed me, and then like that. If that just little bit of dark mystery would have been the end of the game, like just some B horror movie, I would have been so much happier. But instead, they had to be every horror movie, and one time, and also The Matrix, and I was like, why? Why did you need to go? Anyway.
Yeah.
I guess
it gets really stupid. but in a way though that like if you're ready for that, if that's your mindset, it is entertaining throughout, where you're just
Yeah,
like,
and look, I beat
it's
the game both times I tried it. I didn't put it down once. It's easy to
Yeah.
beat because it's a playable movie. All you're doing is QTEs and a little bit of puzzle solving here and there. But it is like there's going to be some really frustrating parts. But I didn't get to this. I was trying to say this earlier. I'm playing the 2015 Steam HD remaster, and so I'm using a PS4 controller, and I'm doing that because you have the analog stick, so you can do your QTEs. But also, for some reason. Okay, so I like the way that the game only pretty much makes you use the sticks for controls because it also adds a little bit of immersiveness. So you can do up, down, left, right during your QTEs, et cetera, et cetera. But there are some actions in game that require a little bit more complex movement with a stick. So, for instance, if I was climbing a ladder, I would walk up to it first. I would initiate the climb sequence by doing what the game tells you by hitting up on your stick, and then you go to the right, and then you quarter circle up, and then you go to the left, and then you quarter circle up, and then you go to the right, and you do it again, and it gives you this simulated feeling of, oh my god, I'm putting hand over hand and actually climbing a ladder in a game. And that seems like such a small little detail, but in my little 13-year-old brain when this shit came out, I was like, oh my god, I'm climbing a ladder. Mm-hmm. It's the PS2. Shit will never get more real than this. But
yeah, it kind of reminds me of like
I was just gonna say on the 2015 HD remake, there's something wrong, man. On those sequences where you have to do those slightly more complex stick inputs, there's not a dead zone on the PS4 controller, or it's not like how the game's picking it up. It's at the end of the stick movement, the game isn't registering an input. So there were so many instances where I would climb up a ladder, climb, be totally fine going up. For some reason, going down. Right stick to the right, quarter circle forward, down. Then you go same on the other side, left, down. For some reason, every time that registered as this motherfucker just let go of the ladder, and I just fall to my death. And I had to restart the same scene 30 times, just hoping that the 3 seconds it gives you because for some reason when you climb on a ladder in a game, you don't have your feet on the ladder, and if you let go with one hand, you just fall to your death because that's how ladders work. If you just I'd be waiting, I'd be pushing this thing. I'd get 3 attempts with the stick in before I ran out of time, before it would make me fall to my death, to just put my arm down. And I'm just sitting there going, no, fuck, no. And just trying to climb down. And I'm just thinking what kind of idiot is just sitting there at the top of a ladder like Timmy in Jurassic Park, scared to climb down from the electrified fence? What kind of idiot is just sitting at the top of the ladder going, with their hand oh fuck, I'm scared, I can't do anything. It's just that was hilarious, but it took me out of the game pretty bad. I can't blame the initial game though. That's just the HD remaster.
Right, and it could be any number of things. Like you said, it's a DualShock 4. I have some specific problems with analog sticks on DualShock 4.
I tried it on an Xbox One controller as well. A plug-in Xbox One controller, same exact issue. It's with the game, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's right. That's Indigo Prophecy. I mean, it's entertaining. And also,
such that I'm still gonna give David Cage another shot, no matter what.
Oh yeah.
It's just that game was, god damn it. The writing could have been so much better. It started off so strong.
Despite all that game's flaws, I did play Heavy Rain day one,
Oh, really?
It was something,
I think Heavy Rain came out in the time, it was a PS3 game, right? I think that was during the time that I was protesting the PS3 generation for not looking different enough from the PS2. Mm-hmm. And then Mortal Kombat 9 came out, and then I bought a PS3, so.
Right. Well, when you play Heavy Rain, you'll see again, oh wow, yeah, this is a lot more advanced than the PS2. With that, the difference between that game and Indigo Prophecy.
My real interest is Detroit Become Human, though, because that's just got a lot of different pathways and how things can go, and I love AI sci-fi in general. So
I haven't played that one yet because my opinion of David Cage stuff has kind of changed over the years, and it made me less excited to play that one.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't play Heavy Rain then.
But yeah, I do really like I do really like stuff that is about like robot politics, kind of,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
idea of like artificial intelligence rights and that kind of thing. I think
Me
is really
too.
interesting. And it seems from what I've seen of Detroit Become Human, it seems like it does a good job of presenting those themes, but it also has what you were talking about with Indigo Prophecy, with some of the characters where it's like, okay, so this character is the guy you're not supposed to like. So he's the hugest asshole you can possibly imagine, right? And this character you're supposed to like. So they're perfect and never make a mistake. You know what I mean? And it's like every character's one like trait is so exaggerated that it's exhausting. But that's only what I've seen of it, right? I haven't actually played it myself, so don't be too
Right.
uh, take it with
Yeah.
a grain of salt.
I mean, it's a game I'm going to play either way. It's as long as Heavy Rain is enjoyable, I'll probably play it.
So I've been playing a game called Crisis Core Final
Oh,
Fantasy
so
VII.
I'm super interested in hearing about this because I think this is the Final Fantasy VII game I know the least about.
Yeah.
Can I pee real quick while I listen to you?
Sure.
Okay.
So you guys are probably sick of hearing about Final Fantasy VII. Well, this is Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. It's a prequel that came out for PSP. So after Final Fantasy VII came out, and it was amazing, there was Dirge of Cerberus on PS2. I never played that one. I don't really know anything about it. But then in 2008, 2007, 2008, somewhere in there, Crisis Core for PSP came out, and the whole thing is that everyone knows the story of Final Fantasy VII, where it turns out, right? Spoilers about Final Fantasy VII from 1998 or whatever. Turns out that Cloud was never in Soldier. He failed to become a soldier, but he was on the Nibelheim mission, and Zack was the soldier that was there with Sephiroth and and knew Sephiroth kind of and stuff. Not really knew him, I wouldn't say that, but anyway, and then Cloud kind of like absorbed Zack's persona basically when he died, and Cloud was all fucked up from Hojo's experiments and stuff, and Shinra murdered Zack, right? And then he got the Buster Sword, and his memory got all fucked up, and he thought he was Zack, right? Okay, so Crisis Core, you play as Zack, and so you are Zack just getting promoted to soldier first class. Sephiroth's there, he's soldier first class, right? You go out on missions, and let's just say this is a handheld game. This is a PSP game through and through. And what I mean by that, it stands out so much if you play it now, that this is a game where there are about 100 million side missions approximately. And every one of them is like, the game's got like 10 different environments in it, and every single mission is, it drops you into one of the environments, which is just like a dungeon that has a lot of pathways in it. And then on each mission, some of the pathways are blocked off and some aren't. And you just have to find the one monster you're supposed to kill and fight it, right? And that's what every single side mission is.
So
But
you're playing this game as young Cloud and Sephiroth going on missions together?
you are Zack.
You're Zack, okay.
Right. And so when you go on missions, it's always something like, it's something for Shinra, right? It's like, oh, we gotta neutralize the Wu Tai resistance or whatever. And so you go in and you fight a Wu Tai guy or something, or like Hojo needs you to kill this monster for a sample or something, right? So you go kill this Hojo monster, right? But every single mission is just, here you are in one of 10 environments that you've seen before. Run around for a little bit until you see the monster that you can see, and go up to it and fight it, right? And that's it.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it screams handheld game, right?
Yeah.
But there is a main story that you go through as well, right? Like, there's always the main story to do, and that's usually a little bit more involved, where like you run through really great looking environments. Like, as far as PSP goes, seeing Midgar in 3D on PSP, or like going to the Chocobo Ranch, or going to um well, I guess more Midgar. I was gonna say the slums, but then also like Wutai and stuff. Seeing all these places in PSP 3D looks really incredible. And then there's
Oh,
cutscenes, right? You meet the Young Turks, you meet all these people, right? And story stuff happens. And then there's a bunch of mini games too, because it's a Final Fantasy game, and they like to have mini games. And those are really stupid. But it's fun. I'm liking it, you know? Like, the side missions are all very samey, but I've figured out that, like, if you don't run straight to the goal, there's always treasure chests around, and I'm starting to figure out that some of those have, like, really good shit in them, so it makes it a lot more fun to actually, like, get all the chests and then go fight the guy, right? But let's talk about the combat first, because there's a lot of it, right? This game is a lot of combat, and the combat is it's pretty unique, and
is it
also,
active?
it is active, yeah. It's
Hmm.
pretty unique, and it's extremely baffling in another way. So, normally, it's pretty easy to understand. When you get into a fight, you're running around in the world, and it stops you in place, and there's invisible walls drawn around you, right? And monsters appear, and you have to fight the monsters, right? And the reason I say invisible walls is because, yes, it's active. You run around with Zack. You run around, and you can hack and slash the monsters. It's not quite hack and slash though, because it's a little bit more sluggish, right? Your attacks have a pretty slow cadence to them. You can do dodge rolls that have iframes and stuff, but when you dodge roll, there's quite a bit of time where Zack just kind of stands there for a second before you can move again. So the so it's not like Dark Souls, right? Where it's like attack, attack, dodge, right? You need to. It kind of is, but
A little
you
bit of an
need to.
awkwardness to it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's what I mean. It's not like Dark Souls where you can where you can do like 3 dodge rolls in a row, you know? You don't do that, they take too much time. You need to time them out a lot better. So it feels kinda clunky and kinda sluggish for those reasons, but the enemies do telegraph their attacks really well, you know? And so it kinda evens out, and it's generally really fun. Especially, like, getting behind enemies always gets critical hits on them, you know? So a lot of the game is kind of like baiting the enemy into attacking, and while they attack, you run around them and then start comboing them in the back. Most enemies you can stun lock if you just sit there and wail on them. So a lot of the time, it's sort of about, like, if there's multiple enemies, you gotta kind of be, like, wailing on one enemy in the back, to stun lock him while you watch the other enemies, and then when they attack, you gotta dodge it, and then single out the one guy to take him out, right? It's fun. And then while you're doing this, also, you can have materia equipped. So, the obvious ones are your fire, lightning, blizzard kinda thing, and the way that you access those, it's kinda like Kingdom Hearts, where in Kingdom Hearts how you've got a menu on screen all the time, even though it's active,
I
and you
haven't
kinda
played
use.
Kingdom Hearts actually.
So, basically, when you attack an enemy, you're pressing X, but really that X press is selecting attack off of a menu that's on the bottom right that's always there.
Oh,
Even though you're running around, there's a menu on the bottom right that is
weird.
highlighting attack, and that's what X does. And then you can use R and L to switch what that action is.
Okay.
So if you have materia equipped, you can scroll over to the materia, and now pressing X shoots fire or it shoots lightning or whatever. And those are different things. There's also the item menu, you can access that way. Do all that kind of stuff. All of this is really great. It's pretty fun. Okay, here's the problem. Are you ready for the problem?
Oh no.
On the top left of the screen, 100% of the time during combat, there is a slot machine that is going.
Why?
Dude, there is
For
a slot machine that is spinning.
like
And this
like a what's a limit break?
Oh boy, does it do a lot of things.
Oh.
So it is sitting there spinning with different characters' faces as well as different numbers. And yeah, so the first thing that it does is if it well, gosh, how do we say it? If you get any sevens, okay, first of all, oh man, where to start with this fucking mechanic? Let's just overall say it is the most baffling, unnecessary, stupid game mechanic I've like ever seen. I cannot get over how stupid it is and how that it made it into the final game.
Damn.
So let's talk about it. It's not like it's funny because it's not so bad that it ruins the game. It's just stupid, you know? So
It's like a
it
bad
sits th-
itch.
so it sits there and spins. And if any of the numbers ever land on sevens, you get a random status effect that is good. It might be something like you have no MP cost for the next 10 seconds, or you don't get knocked back from attacks for the next 10 seconds, or you're straight up invincible for a second, or, that kind of
So
thing,
it's
right?
doing so much that it feels like you're going to play this game and then not know why shit's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens here is you're playing it, you're not looking at the slot machine. It's going up there, but you're not looking at it. You're looking at the action. There's lots of stuff for you to do in combat, but then it'll just say on screen, right? No MP cost, right? In like the middle of the screen it just says that. And you're like,
Oh,
"Okay,
for some reason
okay.
it's free now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
For some reason magic is free now. For no reason, for a minute." And this is the best part of the mechanic, right? It gets stupider. This is like the kind of okay part because it's stupid that you just get the status effects for essentially no reason, but it is kind of fun to then switch gears and change up your strategy based on the effects you're getting. For example, I have a really powerful thunder materia equipped, but it costs a shitload of MP to use it. So when I get that no MP cost effect, that makes me switch gears instantly to go, okay, I got to heal. If I need to heal, I should heal right now because it's free. Then I should switch over to my really powerful thunder and start blasting enemies with that because it's free right now. You know what I mean? And then once the effect ends, I go back to the usual thing. It's kind of fun to do that, and I'll give them that.
Isn't
Here's
it
the
more
other.
fun though when that's just not RNG? When you do
Yes.
something that,
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
okay.
So I'm not giving it all the credit. I'm just giving it a little bit of credit that it is fun to change up your strategy every once in a while. Should it be RNG? No, but
Well,
it
hang on.
is a
So
little
there
bit of
there
fun.
are like, wild card mechanics that make things just more fun by the nature of doing them, but also complicate things. But it's a double-edged sword. Like I think of Magic the Gathering. There's a game mode called Plane Chase, and that game exists. Like the lore of that is there are planeswalkers, so there are dudes that can magically walk between realms, and different realms essentially have different laws of physics, etc. So like, you have a Plane Chase deck. It's like you have a deck of cards, and essentially each big jumbo card is its own dimension. So every turn that card is active as like the plane of existence that you're on, these rules exist. So for some reason, I don't know, like magicians have like 20% less damage on this plane, or on this plane you have to draw an extra card every turn, or whenever you do damage to someone's life in this there's random mechanics that like that can definitely supplant a lot of boring things that not a lot of stuff that's not going on in combat that could be entertaining otherwise. But like the way you're saying this is like this is happening whether or not you have a choice, like whether you like it or not, you just have free magic now.
Yeah.
Or like if you attack with physical attacks, you'll take 10 damage or something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, if you hate it, you can ignore it also, like you can just not use the free MP if you
True.
hate it, right? Um okay, so here's the problem though. I mentioned that numbers and faces are spinning on the slot machine. So when the faces
Like the
line up,
7 rotates?
like there's 3 slots of the slot machine, right?
Uh-huh.
And a face is spinning and a number is spinning.
When you say a face is spinning, do you mean one of the results of the slot machine landing, the result itself is spinning?
No.
Okay, because I was
Oh, no,
confused.
no. I mean like people's faces. Like you know the pictures on slot machines when they're not numbers, they're pictures. You got like bar and
Yeah,
cherry and
yeah.
stuff. It's like that, except it's like Cloud and Eris
Uh huh.
and like other Final Fantasy VII characters are the images, and
Okay.
those are also going on the slot machine.
Oh, you mean okay? You're just saying that their faces are on the slot machine reels. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. But in addition to the numbers, they're
Mm-hmm.
not tied to each other. It's two different
Just a
things.
bigger wheel with more stuff on it.
Yeah, like it's still 3 slots.
Mm-hmm.
It's just each one is a face and a number, and those are independent of each other. So it's kind of like 6, but they're on top of each other. Anyway, if 2 faces come up on the sides, right? Like the right and the left are the same face. Let's say it's Sephiroth, right? On the right and the left, that's what lands. The game interrupts everything. It stops. You might be in the middle of trying to time a dodge roll. You might be doing anything, and it interrupts everything, puts a stop to everything to now embiggen the slot machine to the full size of the screen. We are now full screen slot machine so that you can watch that middle reel and
Not get it result
if
you
it
want.
see if it lands on the face and you got a combo. And right, if you didn't, the game just goes, okay, never mind, and it puts it back up there and resumes.
That's so fucking stupid. So the game goes, whoa, 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 hang on, whoa. Okay, hang on, never mind. False alarm. Don't worry about it. Like every 5 seconds.
Yes, and it might, and it might again. It might be in the middle of you like trying to do something.
Time out.
And it even like jukes you. Like sometimes it'll like land on the wrong character and then go whoa and start like rumbling and move it to another character now to psych you out and stuff. Sometimes in the middle of the third wheel spinning when you're waiting for it, it will like start playing a cutscene, like Zack is having flashbacks, right? And this is going to empower his superpowers, right? It like you get all these screenshots of character faces, like here's Zack's memories or whatever, you know, and that just takes more time. And sometimes it doesn't, like sometimes it stops everything, full screen slot machine, stops on something or like brings up a cutscene of like a character saying something to Zack, and then that goes away, and then the third slot machine lands on nothing, and then it goes back to the battle.
I fucking hate that, man. Oh my god.
Oh, it's so fucking stupid.
That's annoying as shit.
But okay, so what happens if it does land on the character? Oh my god, I got triple Sephiroth, right? What happens then? You get a limit break.
Oh, so is that the only way you can get them in the game?
It's the only way you get limit breaks in the game.
Randomly.
Randomly. Yes. So there's no strategy to it. It's just sometimes, oops, you got a limit break. And man, the limit breaks, they like take a super long time and they don't even do very much damage. But like it is free, I guess.
Free damage. Yeah.
Eris's is pretty good though because she heals you and it can over heal you, which is nice. So hers is pretty good.
Why is Eris in this story if the story is about Zack and Sephiroth?
Well, because Zack and Eris dated.
Oh.
Yeah, and so you know that's part of the story too.
There is a little bit about Final Fantasy VII. I'm glad you explained prior to doing the gameplay talk because from when I was a kid and I was playing the game. I think I mentioned this before, how I didn't understand the game, but I had a friend that I would call up every day for tips on how to beat it. And he, you know, I think he helped me most often right around the time where Zack was a storyline mechanic in Final Fantasy VII. So I understood that there was Zack. I understood that he dressed like me. I understood that we shared a flashback, but I had no idea that that's the actual story of him, which is he's the one who has all these memories, and you just kind of had them planted in your head in the live stream or some shit like that. Or I think that's how it went. And then you kind of figure out that you have an identity crisis in Final Fantasy VII, like after you learn this. And I think that's when you're like, isn't that when Eris is pushing you around in the wheelchair or some shit?
Well, Tifa is pushing you
Tifa
around.
is, yeah.
Because Eris is, you know, fucking dead by that point.
Yeah, by that point, yeah, she's dead. Yeah, then that would be an awkward conversation, wouldn't it? Hey, remember that guy I dated?
Yeah.
Well, remember how you dressed just like him? Like that, man, what a manipulative point of, never mind.
So, and yeah, and some of that stuff does come up to play. I'll get to the story in a minute, but I really want to harp on this fucking slot machine mechanic. Cause yeah, so every once in a while, oops, you got a limit break, which is really stupid. But it gets dumber. It goes deeper and dumber. If you get a limit break, then I mentioned that numbers also fly around on the spin at the same time as the character faces.
Mm-hmm.
So if the faces line up and you got a limit break, the game also then looks at the numbers. And that moment in time determines whether any of your materia levels up.
What?
So, yeah, so you can have 6 materia equipped. The
Wait,
numbers go
after you get a lucky result on the slot machine?
Yes.
So you don't level up your materia until you have a lucky result?
Correct. And you don't level up your materia by using it. You level it up when you get a limit break, and then also when you get a limit break, if the numbers line up, it levels up that materia. The numbers go 1 through 7, and you have 6 materia slots. So if there's 2 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, or 6s, that slot of materia levels up once. Or if there's 3 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6s, then that materia levels up twice.
I guess it wouldn't be that much of a problem, because I guess I'm now thinking about it of this is a PSP game. And in my very unexperienced mobile gaming in the 21st century mind, mobile gaming to me would indicate that like there's themes here from Final Fantasy VII. They don't work exactly like they would, because that would just be way too complicated and involved of a game. So here are things you recognize, and we're just going to have fun with it. So here's a slot machine mechanic, and woo, look at this, you lucked out. Now this fight is easier, and look at this. Now your materia is leveled up. Therefore, that tells me materia and limit breaks probably not all that important of a game mechanic.
Well, I would somewhat agree with limit breaks, but not materia leveling up. That's real big. Because the game also has a materia fusion system in it that's pretty cool. So when your materia level up, they give you a stat bonus that increases, and then you can use that materia once you've like it might raise your vitality, for example, and as the materia levels up to master, it raises your vitality by more, and then you can fuse it with another materia, right, to get a new one, and that will have inherited the properties of what you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you keep mastering and fusing materia, you keep getting materia that are higher and higher stats, that are your stats, right?
How long is this game?
You got to level them up for it to be good.
How many hours would you say?
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know yet.
You haven't beaten it yet. Okay.
I haven't beaten it yet.
Gotcha.
It's pretty long though if you're into the side missions, because there's 100 million of them.
Well, it's a JRPG with side missions. It's gonna be pretty long no matter what. I would.
Yeah,
assume.
I don't know if I'd call this game a JRPG. I think it's an action RPG, just straight up.
Well, okay, so I guess that we have to talk then about the fact that JRPG just means Japanese RPG, which technically, of course.
I guess.
Yeah.
Let's instead talk about another aspect of the slot machine.
Sure.
So you might be asking, Dash, you said that the numbers go from 1 to 7, and you only have 6 materia slots. What happens if it gets 777 while you lined faces up? Well, first of all, let's talk about what happens if you get 2 7s, because I mentioned that 2 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, or 6s levels up your materia once, while 3 levels it up twice. If you get 2 7s, it does nothing. But if you get 3 7s, that is how Zack levels up.
What?
Yeah. Your fucking character.
Your main character?
In an RPG does not level up by gaining experience from fighting enemies, but if the slot machine lines up randomly.
And this game is playable to you.
It's so fucking infuriating, this slot machine mechanic.
Sounds like it.
I'm telling you, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
You could probably mod that out, you know.
Maybe, but like the battle system is really fun. Like fighting the fights is super fun, and the missions are kind of fun, even though all you do is run around and fight guys. And the story, even though I don't necessarily love the story itself, I don't know. Going through the story is still kind of fun, and seeing all the Final Fantasy VII environments in 3D is cool.
Yeah, it's a prequel thing too, right?
Yeah,
so it's like you're not
so
gonna.
the slot machine is kind of getting a pass. I do want to say one more thing about the slot machine, which is that I suspect it's too stupid as it's presented. I suspect that the game does have a hidden experience mechanic.
Huh.
And it will quote unquote randomly level you up when it thinks you deserve it, right? Based on some other thing. You know what I mean? Like there's no fucking way that it's actually random, because that would be the actual dumbest thing anyone has ever put in a video game. You know what I mean? So like maybe I'm just in denial.
You think it treats you better when you're higher level or lower level?
Well, there is a weird aspect to it where like sometimes I'm in a really hard battle that I cannot be, because I'm playing it on hard mode also, which is pretty fucking hard.
Why?
And like,
why are you doing this to yourself?
It's fun. The battle system's great. I don't think I would appreciate it if it was too easy. But like some battles are super fucking hard, and I'm sitting there and I just never get limit breaks, right? I just never get the slot machine going off, and it's weird. But then other battles, it's just popping off every 3 seconds.
But does the slot machine, results scale with level? That's kind of what I was getting at. Does it pad your results based on like monster level? Because you know how in like some JRPGs, when you go into combat, if you're lower level than them, you'll do like almost no damage, and if you're above level than them, it's like the game knows you're not the equal of that creature, but it makes you stronger, like even luckier for some reason anyway.
Oh yeah, I don't know. That might be a thing, because what I've been noticing is, yes, sometimes I'm in a super hard battle and it's just never popping off. And sometimes I'm in a battle where I can hardly get an action in before it freezes everything again to show me the slot machine again, because it won't stop popping off. There is a mechanic where it tells you what your limit status is. It's not like a bar, but there's like normal limit or high limit or sky high or heavenly, right? It says, which I think is supposed to imply your likelihood of a limit break, but I've not really seen it be super what's the word when like they're together, when they affect each other?
Sorry.
Correlation. I don't see a super strong correlation with that. Sometimes you get a message on screen that says heightened emotions have affected the slot machine. It doesn't say slot machine, it calls it the DMW. But even that, I don't really see.
What does DMW stand for?
Digital mind wave, I think.
This is me assuming a whole lot here, but are we assuming the slot? So one of the things when you talked about the slot machine was when you said numbers on it, I assumed you only meant 7, not like up to 7. So it's already very different to me as a slot machine goes. But like when you're talking about how if it... I'm just trying to figure out if the fucking slot machine is 100% a real random slot machine, or if it's helping you out the whole time unseenedly, if that's a word.
Right. That's what I'm trying to figure out while I play the game also. Yeah. In any case, the fact is, even if it is like a mechanic that it turns out isn't random and it helps you out based on something, it is presented to the player as if it is random, and the player is expected to treat it as such, right?
You know,
so it is fair to criticize it for being random.
I'm gonna say this. It frustrates me when a game is smarter than it leads on to be, because I don't like the idea of playing a game where a game or a mechanic like that is in it, and I have to even consider whether or not I need to be wondering whether or not the results on it are trustable. Or trustable is not the right word, but like, does it reflect a truly random outcome, or is it actually helping me along? And I don't like that I would have to figure that out manually.
Yeah, totally. So that's the general gameplay. The other big aspect to this game, and the reason that most people would play it, if anyone's gonna play it, is the story, right? I really like the gameplay overall. I think the battle system is super fun, and all that. Story wise, I don't know. It's one of those things where like I think the only way to not hate the game story is to go into it thinking that it's its own universe, right? You have to like divorce it from Final Fantasy VII proper.
Really?
Yeah, personally, I think that you cannot play Crisis Core with the mindset of I am learning more about Final Fantasy VII.
Fuck.
Because I think it only kind of ruins certain things about the game.
What? How so?
Because like Sephiroth is just kind of like a dude that you just talk to, and he's like, Zach, we need you to finish the mission.
No. So hang on. If we're talking about past Sephiroth, we're talking about real Sephiroth, right? We're not talking about genetic mutant like Sephiroth, in Final Fantasy VII. He is just a guy. I mean, well, he's not just a guy. He's like, Spartan 117 Master Chief of Shinra Soldier, right? But, he's still just a guy. He's a human at this point, right?
Very similar to Star Wars. I would argue that if Darth Vader was a regular guy before we saw him in A New Hope, I'd rather not know about it, because it only makes the character less interesting and cool.
You don't care to see where Vader became what he was?
Correct.
I think that was the majority of the sentiment behind all the prequel movies, but I kind of, as bad as those movies were in depicting Vader as what he was, I kind of do appreciate it. I don't want to get too much on Star Wars here, but I do appreciate the depiction of early Sith people just being people, weak teenagers hungry for power they never had.
Yeah, I just feel like it's never ever done right. But anyway, so other aspects besides just Sephiroth, though, is the other thing that you learn, and this is also part of what makes Sephiroth less cool in Crisis Core, is that there's these other two assholes, Angeal and Genesis, right? They're like the other two first-class soldiers, and they're sort of treated as mostly equals. There is pretty strong indication that like Sephiroth is the strongest of them, but they're like three fucking like boy band buddies, that hang out. And Genesis is like the most insufferable, annoying character where he's obsessed with this play, and all of his dialogue is him just like reciting parts of this play to everybody while holding an apple. He's like this overly dramatic, ridiculous character, while Angeal is like the straight man who's just like the normal, you guys better keep in line, but then also like in the world, all of the different members of Soldier First Class have like fangirl clubs.
What?
Like you find people in Midgar that are like, do you want to join the Genesis Club?
Oh,
we're
my God.
Obsessed
it's
with
literally
Genesis.
Like a J-pop group that you're,
Yes. And like, oh my God, like all the stuff with these guys is so annoying and stupid and terrible and campy. And so also they can fly. They can just fly. Sephiroth, Angeal, and Genesis.
Why didn't we mention this before? This seems like a pretty significant mechanic.
Right, and like that's the kind of thing where it's like you're putting this in a prequel, and so it makes it so weird
Okay,
that
hang on,
Final
hang on.
Fantasy 7.
To be fair, there were plenty of scenes where, Sephiroth just anime hovered onto a platform, right?
That's like a projection of Sephiroth though, using
uh,
like Genova cells and shit. That's
okay.
not real Sephiroth. Throughout the duration of Final Fantasy 7, Sephiroth is in the northern crater in that gem thing, just like hanging out. Every single time you see him throughout the game, it's not really him. Which is also why you usually
Uh,
fight Genova when you see him,
that
when you
makes
see him
so
on the
much more
cargo
sense.
ship and he floats in and then he flies away, boom, you fight with Genova.
Huh.
Um, yeah.
It's like a Genova seedling almost. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I can see that
Uh
now.
so yeah, all that kind of story stuff is really dumb. I do like the Cloud stuff though. Like I've at least gotten to the point in the story where now Cloud has shown up and he's just like a regular Shinra grunt and he's bonding with Zack. And from what I did play this game right when it came out, however many years ago that was. And it's coming like what I remember about the game is turning out to be exactly right, which was that Genesis and Angeal, everything to do with them is like terrible and insufferable almost.
It's kind of funny
But
because you're reminding. Sorry to interrupt, but you're
yeah,
reminding me of. Have you seen Advent Children?
yes.
You're reminding me of Kodaj and his like a few other. They're Sephiroth clones, and in character wise, they're probably nothing like what you're talking about. But like, it seems like there's just this constant theme of we have a super strong character, we have our team of heroes, and or not even heroes. We have a team of protagonists, and god damn, dude. What is it with the fan club thing? Like, it seems like
Yeah.
didn't they do that with Final Fantasy 15 as well, where they essentially the whole game was a boy band without being a boy band?
Yeah, and you're like on a road trip or something.
Yeah,
I haven't played it. I don't totally know,
I
but it
heard it was good,
looks like it.
but I heard it was also kind of like that. There's like a, I don't know, maybe it's just because they're Japanese developed games. Like it's just a different perspective that we don't get in the West because boy bands stopped being popular here in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean the thing is though, like that
The
it's like a modern. I blame Tetsuya Nomura, uh, but uh, but
did he
yeah.
write it?
So say what?
Was he the writer or the director?
He was the character designer for Seven,
Oh,
and then he's gone on like he directed Kingdom Hearts and he directed the Final Fantasy VII remake. I think.
I thought he was more involved than just the character designer.
Well, he has become more and more involved
Okay.
over the years, I think, right?
Yeah.
And to the point of directing the Final Fantasy VII remake.
True.
So what was I getting at? So Crisis Core, I mean,
You were talking
yeah,
about how we were. Well, I went off on the boy band tangent there, but you were talking about the different characters having their
well,
importance.
yeah, like I really didn't like the Genesis and Angeal stuff, but
Yeah.
then the stuff between Cloud and Zack though, and like them bonding and stuff, I liked that part when I was younger, right? And I'm just getting to that part now. And it seems fine. Uh I guess the last thing to say about that though is that Zack is kind of a doofus, but I guess he's kind of a doofus in 7 also. He's very talkative. He walks around and does squats a lot and stuff. Uh and you know what I actually realized that it kind of made me appreciate 7 more is that remember the Nibelheim flashback as Cloud tells it at the start of 7 when
When
you're in
when
the
the
back of
town's
the truck
burning.
before the town burns, but
Okay.
yes, when you're in the back of the truck with Sephiroth and Cloud is like really restless and walking around and doing squats and asking all the Shinra soldiers how they are, he's acting like Zack.
Yeah, he is.
And like that never clicked with me until just recently that like that it totally, and I think that that's really neat.
Man, you're getting the advantage of you're doing all these speed runs and like man, I love Final Fantasy VII, but I beat that when I was 12. You're getting like supercharged on the Final Fantasy VII side here. I'm
Well,
jealous.
I did casually play through 7 again recently. After I did like 10 speed runs of it, every single speed run I was saying, "Man, we got to play this game casually again so I can actually know what they're talking about in these cutscenes that I'm skipping through." So then
Casual
I
to me
Mhm.
means I picked up a game and whatever. It's got a story. I'll follow it. Whatever. Casual to you means I just stopped my 10th attempt at beating the game in 4 hours, and now I'm just gonna play it for the fun of it.
Well, yeah. Right.
So context.
Right. To me, casual means I'm going to read every bit of dialogue out loud in the characters' voices and stuff, and we're going to discuss the story and all that. So, yeah. But I did do that a couple weeks ago. It took like 3 or 4 streams to get through the game slowly, and doing that. So yes, the story of regular 7 is very fresh in my mind.
Yeah, and I'm jealous of that because like there's nothing I can do, and I love Final Fantasy VII. There's nothing I can do short of listening to some dickhead on YouTube talk about it the whole time to get the full scope of the Final Fantasy VII story in my head. You speedrunning it and playing it casually to get the bits that you're missing in speedrunning here and there is just like. Wish I had the time for that because there's just so much of that story that, like I was talking about the whole Zack arc. I didn't understand Zack at all until literally just when you explained it. That was just a figment of my imagination. And honestly, I think it's at some point when I played Final Fantasy VII as a kid and I didn't understand Zack, I just mentally went, well, that didn't happen. I'm just going to play this game as if I'm Cloud, and Cloud is who he is, and you know what? He just went through this fucking mental breakdown with Tifa trying to figure out who the fuck he is. Let's just let him be him. Let's just he's Cloud, and Cloud is who he is for the rest of the game, and that is the formula of making a complete empty blank space in your brain.
Sure. I will give you credit in that, like, the relationship between Zack and Cloud and exactly what happened between those two is the number one biggest thing that people don't understand about Final Fantasy VII after they finish it. Like that's always that is the most confusing part of the story, especially because Sephiroth lies to you about it halfway through the game.
True. Yeah. He's kind of fucking with your head. That's true.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. For sure, but it's cool that they decided to give you that little bit of back and forth between Cloud and give you that clarity between Cloud and Zack there, because like being able to differentiate that there are two different people would probably help me mentally to understand where they are in the story, like in the actual original game. You talking about how Cloud was being restless, I remember that scene like almost perfectly in my head because that's one of the earliest scenes in the game. Is you understanding where you are with Sephiroth in the game. But like, I remember that, and I was like, that doesn't even seem like Cloud as an adult. When you play as Cloud, all of his dialogue options are the opposite of that. And as a kid, and I think as anyone who's playing the game in the very early onset, you're probably automatically, because you don't have other context of the game yet, you're probably contextualizing that as Cloud was young. He was a boy. This was back then. He was fresh. He's going to be excited. He's going to be eager to help people out. He wants to find his place. And now you're an adult and you're just on Avalanche and the planet's dying, Cloud. Whatever.
Not interested.
Yeah, like, I don't care. Whatever. Yeah, that's not the same character. So it's cool that it fucks with your head there and makes you question earlier premises.
Yeah. And you do get all that in the regular game. There is, because one big thing about understanding Zack and Cloud in FF7 is that the major cutscene that is like the big revelation of what actually happened between the two is hidden. You have to go to Nibelheim, like after Cloud is in the wheelchair and all that. And then you get him back into your party after all that shit. So at like the end of the game, right, when you're back to having Cloud in the party, at that point, if you go back to Nibelheim and you go to the Shinra Mansion and you go to the basement again, where like Sephiroth read all the books, boom, you get a flashback cutscene that like pretty clearly explains exactly what happened between those two.
And I don't think I ever did that, and that might be why I'm so fucked up on this memory. Because the only thing in the Shinra Mansion to me is the forced "I'm going to see my mother" scene, and also Vincent Valentine. If you looked up Game Facts Guide,
right,
and you figure out how to get him early.
Right, because you gotta get that invisible ink puzzle.
The
Oh my god,
coffin.
remember that? With but remember the invisible ink thing with the safe combo?
No. Could you explain that?
Oh, well, because the way that you get Vincent, you need to get the key to the coffin room, and that's in the safe, and to get the safe combo, there's 4 clues that are on a piece of paper. Well, there's 3 clues that are on a piece of paper,
So
but
my
there's
piece of
4.
paper was game facts.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
So yeah.
in game, there's a piece of paper that has 3 clues on it, but there's 4 safe codes. And the way that you get the 4th code is on the 3 clues that are on the piece of paper are a selection menu, you know? Bloop, bloop, bloop. You pick, do you want to look at clue number 1, 2, or 3? But you can menu down 1 more from the 3 down to an invisible spot under it, and you select that, and that gives you the 4th code number.
Huh.
Pretty great. Because
Yeah.
there's space there. You would think, how would you ever figure that out? Well, there's space down there, and at no other point in the game when you're given a selection is there an empty space of extra line, under it
I
that you could.
guess yeah, for sure. I guess if I was a kid at the time, and I was, and I was playing the game, and I didn't have access to game facts, I probably might have mustered up the confidence to try and figure that out on my own. I probably would not have, and I never would have even known who Vincent was, probably.
Yeah.
I know I would not have had the patience to do that, so I looked it up. That was at a point in my life where I was looking up, because I thought as soon as I got the internet, and I would go to my grandparents' house because they had a Windows XP computer. It was like the latest and greatest thing. I found out this wonderful world on the internet that you could just get cheats whenever. You didn't have to go to a bookstore. You didn't have to go to a Walden Books to buy a Codemasters book for $20 to get cheat codes in games. So I was at a point in my life where I was like, oh, I'm going to do that for fucking everything. And because I loved the Final Fantasy VII story so much, I was just like, okay, why don't I just look up, oh, the debug room. Ooh, we could skip this or whatever. It's like, I don't have to die in this boss fight, etc. I don't think I cheated in the game all that much, but I do remember looking up guides and like going to places and doing things that I would have never figured out on my own.
Yeah, like I was talking about Legend of Mana earlier, and that is a game that has like a million mechanics in it. Like in that game, you can craft equipment, you can make a vegetable farm and like start farming shit. You can make a golem that's like a pet robot. That's a whole mechanic. You can catch monsters and raise them as pets. This game's got like all these different mechanics in it, and definitely as a kid, I had like a 50-page document printed out from game facts, to like of how all these fucking mechanics work.
Man,
Also,
I had binders and binders of just the most plain text, awful game facts, just 50,000 page novels of guides for every game.
I was at the retro game store the other day, and they had this book that I had to pick up because it was so dumb.
Whoa.
How to Win at Nintendo.
Oh, man. Okay, so there was a Twitter thread, not a thread, but like a thing going around, a little bit of a fad, I guess you'd call it, of people going, man, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people would call a system like the name of the company of the system who made it, the company who made it, etc. So they were like, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I got so mad when someone would say, I just want to go home and play Nintendo. Or I want to go home, or she doesn't even have Sega, is like a line they would get used. But like, I thought about it and I was like, dude, back then, how many generations of video game consoles were there? You either had Atari or you didn't have Atari. Thinking about like the word Atari was like, back then you'd have a 2600, 800 or whatever, but like you had all these different iterations of an Atari. So people would just shorten it to Atari. And then there was like, ColecoVision and Odyssey and all that stuff, but it wasn't as successful as Atari. But like, then there came along Nintendo, and what was the console? The Nintendo Entertainment System. So what are you going to shorten that to? You're just going to call it, I got Nintendo. Or I got Sega. I got, people got pissed off at like, I hate it when people say, I want to play Nintendo. Dude, that same person, I want to say, was also on the other side of the fence of the argument of I don't I don't get why people get mad, why people uh, will say PSX in lieu of PS1 or
Oh, mhm.
PlayStation, because the PSX was technically its own separate console.
Yeah, I've never really understood what the PSX was.
Yeah, it's actually so it's a PS2 essentially, but I think it filled like a whole bunch of other like purposes as a media center PC, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't popular because I mean the PS2 almost was half its way to a media center PC.
And speaking of weird wording, as far as this book goes, I also
Yeah,
just love the wording of how to win at
win.
Nintendo. Like you don't beat the game, you won,
This kid
you know.
fucking sucks at Nintendo, man.
And
I
oh man,
my kid wins at it all the time.
this whole book too, it's like it's written so dumb. Like I hear let me give you a passage about Contra. For the snowfield and beyond, nothing in italics, nothing but lightning quick reflexes will enable you to triumph. Enemy soldiers come at you from the front, back, above, and below, while from hiding, cowards fling explosives at you. Like,
This is 90s video game advertising commercial talk.
yeah, yeah.
This
Oh,
is
it's good stuff.
this is fantastic because like there's so much like well you said earlier you think camp is also being about self-awareness. I would argue the opposite. I think campiness is endemic to people who don't get outside of their own circle very much and realize how weird they're being.
That's
but
true.
but like I think of when I think of like the campiness, I think about old advertisements from the 70s and how they all had those jingles because no one really knew
Yeah.
how else you advertised at the time. And so that evolved, and like video games, the writing for like reviewing games at the time or even just a strategy guide, you're contending with the other written mediums of the time. You're contending with not I don't think game journalism was really big back then at all. So like there wasn't a sense of giving people the news or anything like this. It was always just this monologue that you had to write as a guide giver almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you had to have an editor, give you bigger vocabulary words than necessary sometimes. Make it seem like you're reading an action novel rather than a strategy guide, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So about one interesting thing you brought up jingles, right? And how so many ads have jingles. Have you noticed how? And I'm gonna say nowadays, but this has been going on for a long time. That instead of jingles, now there's just like a certain sound, like
Oh,
just a
yeah.
like Taco Bell has that bell sound, dong, right? And that's it. It's just a bell sound, and
Mhm.
oh, it's a Taco Bell commercial, right?
Yeah, it's just
Uh,
it's a less complex, more broken down. Same. It's the same principle, right? You're gonna
yeah.
hear one unique sound in one place, but you're gonna hear it a lot.
Yep.
And we're not going to tell you what it is because you'll already know what it is because you already have a positive association to it mentally or
Mhm.
psychologically. So yeah, it makes sense. Jingles never went away. Like you were talking about how like there's still something like them. I think because they work, they never went away. They just evolved into the more
Right.
simplified form.
Yeah, and, like, sometimes it's a sound effect, but also sometimes it's just saying the brand name in a certain way, right? Like, PlayStation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, in
Uh,
a certain like tone, reversed. What was it? I have a retro ad that I guess no one else is gonna get, but I get because I have it in my ad reel and I hear it every time I stream. I hear Sega Saturn.
oh, like they recorded it
They
backwards?
recorded it backwards but pronounced it like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
backwards. So like dude, I hear that constantly now and I go, oh well, obviously it's saying the product name, but like when I hear that, the tone of voice, the cadence of the voice, and the inhuman pitch changes, I go,
Mhm.
oh, instantly my brain associates it with Sega. Well, it's the first word, so you're gonna hear it, but like,
Yep, yep.
but before that, the campaign was not talking weird backwards. It was literally just screaming at you, Sega.
Right, right.
Like
Yeah,
as much
man,
as you can get.
right, Sega's been doing it forever because even just Sega,
Yeah,
right?
all the different kinds.
That's not a jingle, but it's the same thing, right? Yeah, they say it in that way, and you know exactly what You don't even have to say the word. If you go da, da, to
Yeah,
somebody,
right?
it's Sega. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, like, fuck, dude. Now that I think about it, Sega's been doing that for like they changed it up a lot because like there's the whole there's I want to say it was a Dreamcast advert where it was like Sega Dream. It was a female voice, Sega Dreamcast, and then it goes to it's thinking. Like
It's thinking. Was that Dreamcast?
I think it was either Saturn or Dreamcast, but it was like it's
Okay.
thinking, like it's got its own. I almost want to swear it's Dreamcast, where
Sure.
it might have been like Dreamcast, it's thinking or something like that, where they're just kind of trying to give you the idea that it's just a smart device before smart devices were a thing.
Yeah, I feel like GameCube also had a woman whispering the word GameCube as kind of the thing. GameCube,
Dude,
I
you know what else there was? A
what?
bunch of kids going Dreamcast.
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
all sorts of yeah. The GameCube has one too. You're right. GameCube has one. God, it's so weird how we can't recall it, but we know it's there.
No, well, what I remember is a lady whispering it, right?
Me
But
too.
it may have varied between commercials and over time and stuff. But yeah, of course, the Switch nowadays just has that click sound, right? And that's all it is. But you know exactly what it is with that reverb or whatever it is on the sound.
I
You
remember the
recognize it.
first day. I don't think it was E3. It was a Nintendo Direct, but whatever it was, I remember when the Switch was first announced. I
Mm-hmm.
watched it, and I watched how hard they tried, and still try to this day to get into whatever they're doing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I see what you're doing. I see it actively working. And I
Yeah.
hate that it's working because I thought it was so stupid when it first happened. When
Oh,
they were at the press conference, this wasn't even just CGI or commercial. This is just them, the Japanese businessmen at a podium going at the same time. And I was like, this is the corniest shit ever.
yeah. Oh man, see, I love that kind of stuff because I like when Nintendo is still just like fun and whimsical and doing their own thing,
Mm.
instead of all that corporate
Oh,
speech bullshit.
absolutely. I'm 1,000% by. Like I posted this to Twitter the other day. I was like, I like the Wii U better than I like the Switch, but I like the Switch. I like the idea of the Switch so much better than I like the Wii U. And
Mhm.
and like thinking about how they marketed it, I thought was genius, and I loved it. And I think I was on board until I saw the Switch Lite, and I was like, why are you even calling that a Switch? We've talked about this before.
Oh,
but
because it
yeah.
doesn't switch anymore.
Yeah, because it doesn't switch
Yeah,
to
yeah.
desktop, console to handheld.
What do you like about the Wii U more than the Switch?
I like the Wii U more than the Switch in that it feels like a console dedicated 3DS. In that the bottom screen is your touchpad, your TV is your console.
Mhm.
Switch doesn't do that. The Switch is either the console or the handpad or the
Right.
gamepad, and there's no unison cooperation between the two. Switch I like a lot because it seems from a utility standpoint like the perfect console. As long as the games and software are such that the hardware limitations aren't a problem, and for for a good portion of games for the Switch's library, that's the case. It's a perfect gaming machine. But the Wii U itself is so much more like it makes me change up how I interact and approach a video game so much more than I traditionally would if I was playing the Switch or the PS3 or PS4. I have a controller in my hand that I'm not going to pay attention to at all until I have to because of some awkward thing in the game. Or I have a controller in my hand and I can look at the TV, I can look at the controller, or if I want to, I can just look at one of them the whole time. I can choose. I can use
Right.
both. The Wii U gives you that option. It gives you one or the other or both, and it gives you mechanics that work for both. And I loved that. So the Wii U is
Yeah.
dope. And honestly, I said this too. I'm gonna make a prediction right now. After seeing Facebook bundles, like Facebook Marketplace, of bundles of like one or two games, the gamepad, the system, and all the cables for like $50 sometimes, I don't think the Wii U is ever going to get better in terms of price. Like I think now is the time to buy a Wii.
Oh, sure.
1,000%.
So for the most part, I don't like the gamepad. I don't like having two screens at once and a
Have
touch screen when
Have you
I'm
played
trying to
the
console
Donkey
game.
Kong Tropical Freeze?
No.
Try that. It works very well. And I heard
Okay.
it's very good for Breath of the Wild for inventory management.
Well, that's what I was gonna say is there is one time that I really liked the Wii U gamepad, and it was Wind Waker HD. Because, yeah, being able to, like, instead of going into the pause menu to assign different tools to different buttons all the time, you could just do it on the gamepad, while the game was still up, and so
Yeah.
that use of it, I enjoyed. That was good.
That was so much I think Voltar has talked about that on Twitter a whole bunch too. Like I think he said he prefers the Wii U version because of how much easier it is to work with that. And if it was a PC game or something like Oblivion or Elder Scrolls games like Morrowind, where the inventory is a nightmare to manage, there are mods. But like with Breath of the Wild, what do you have? You have the Switch game that you could just deal with, or you have the Wii U game. And when, I heard the Wii U game, like performance-wise, is just like maybe like 80-70% as good as it runs on Switch, but I still hear it's very playable. And if you got the bonus perks of having the gamepad to use as a second screen, why not go for it? Especially because I think it's still cheaper than the Switch version.
Yeah.
Collector's edition, right there. Go for it.
Sure. Yeah, the Wii, right. It had perks, but overall, I would sacrifice the few and far between Wii U perk for just having a regular ass controller and one screen and only having to deal with that.
And
Traditionally,
the Wii U's Pro controller was just.
yeah.
It was the one controller that decided to put the right stick on top, and found out.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that either.
Yeah.
But all right. That's about that. I talked about Crisis Core. I ranted about trying to play Legend of Mana yesterday.
Is there any more you wanted to talk about? Well, I don't know how much progress I've realistically made. I was going to say, is there anything more you wanted to talk about in Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness?
I've beaten it now. Had I beaten it last time we talked about it?
I think you did.
Okay.
I spent. I got my progress was that I added an additional hour to my time, and not getting really anywhere, but finding out a lot mechanically about the game. I found out there's no aiming mechanic, despite there being 4 buttons to pull out and put away your fucking gun. There's no aiming. You kind of just are aware of the presence of an enemy, and if you have line of sight, you just spam the X button. The X button. To fire your gun, not R1, the X button, and you just spam that a whole bunch, and then they're dead. So that was exciting. I found that out.
Yeah, I think my overall sentiment with Tomb Raider: Angel of Darkness is that there are bits of the game that are clearly unfinished, and those parts are extremely frustrating. And I'm talking shit like you don't know what killed you. There's sound effects missing, absolute bullshit, right? Where you're like, oh no. And then also the game has just like super, super incredibly unresponsive controls, right? But outside of that, I like every other part of the game, right?
I will give it this. I'm actually getting along, and I'm enjoying getting along. Like, I hate playing the game. But I haven't gotten to a point yet where I have begrudgingly thrown in the towel enough to where I said, all right, I don't care about how many saves I have left. I'm done. This is where I end it. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. I'll say also, it's very fun to watch someone else play it once you finish your run.
I gotta try that once I finish my run. He says,
Once you're done with the game,
I'm the last person
play through. It's great.
Well, yeah, I could watch a VOD. That's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we talked pretty exhaustively.
There's nothing else I have to say about it right now.
Well, all right.
Well,
you talked about Indigo Prophecy, and
yeah, I did. I talked about Indigo Prophecy, or more accurately, the remastered Fahrenheit international uncensored version. I'll be honest, if you guys are gonna go for that game, just buy the PS2 or Xbox game. There is no reason to go. Like, the HD textures in some places, the weather effects, the snow is very well done because it's an apocalypse. The Earth is getting way too cold for humans to be out, and you would have exposed skin. Another part of the story that I hated, but anyway, it does a good job of showing you that there's a lot of snow coming down. But overall, gameplay wise, buy the PS2 version. You'll be happier. It's made for the PS2 or Xbox. It might work for the Xbox, but I've never played the Xbox version. Buy that. Go through the story. You don't need your hot coffee mod sex scene. Just YouTube it if you're somehow that desperate to see it. But give him a chance. Don't just play one David Cage game. That's all I'll say.
Oh yeah. And at the Indigo Prophecy is an experience. At the very least, watch a playthrough of it.
As bad as the story can turn out, you getting resolution to why the beginning of the game happened is worth getting.
Oh yeah, it's a ride.
Yeah, we'll say it's a ride. Well, we appreciate y'all hanging out and listening and downloading. This is All the Way Down, episode 27. We'll be back in about 2 weeks from now with episode 28, talking about some other bullshit we're mad about that no one else will be mad about except for us. I'm Invictus Knox. I can be found on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, etc. This is Dash Retro. Dash Retro can be found
on Twitch. Don't care about any of that other bullshit, just find me on Twitch. That will branch out into anything else that you need to see.
Follow him on Twitter too. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all next time.